Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. In this office, I try to make sense out of the nonsense of the progressive left. If you are a subscriber, thank you for your continued viewership. It is appreciated. If you are a returning viewer, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future presentations. And if you are a first-time visitor to my channel, congratulations on finding it. I hope you find the content worth coming back for. My name is Myron Ybarra, and I'm your host. Today's presentation is going to bounce around a little bit, but the main theme focuses around the ills of affirmative action. According to Webster's Dictionary, affirmative action is the use of policies, legislations, programs, and procedures to improve the educational or employment opportunities of members of certain demographic groups, such as minority groups, women, and older people, as a remedy to the effects of long-standing discrimination against such groups. I wonder if this definition refers to the traditional woman or the new whoa man. But before I go any further into this topic, I would like to get your take. Have you or anyone you know been victim or beneficiary of affirmative action? Please take a minute to comment below. The purported purpose of affirmative action was to redress previous biases that business, education, and government had in the workplace. Now, while some may think this is a good idea, I don't, and for a number of reasons. First, Americans have taken great strides in righting and atoning for past wrongs. Some of the more notable steps include the Emancipation Proclamation, and that was issued as an executive order in 1863. President Abraham Lincoln declared that all persons held as slaves are and thenceforward and forever shall be free. Federal laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited discrimination based on immutable characteristics like race, age, national origin, and gender, as well as religion and political affiliation. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which allowed all legal-aged American citizens to vote regardless of the aforementioned immutable characteristics. Over time, we have found that holding certain people to one standard and others to a different standard is inherently wrong. United States citizens, and as a result our government, recognize the damage that was being done to the moral fabric of our nation and passed laws to ensure that it doesn't happen again. The problem with affirmative action, however, is that unlike the aforementioned laws, affirmative action attempts to take a retroactive approach for a belief that, despite the laws to the contrary, biases of protected classes still prevail. The unfortunate truth is that affirmative action does exactly what the aforementioned laws prohibit, but in the inverse. Affirmative action shows favor to some people based on immutable characteristics, not because bias is happening today, but because of past wrongs. The old adage, two wrongs don't make a right, appears to have been written just for the concept of affirmative action. Next, as a mixed ancestry American, I can tell you from my own perspective that I abhor the idea of affirmative action. You see, affirmative action gives two different perspectives to people who have been afflicted under its processes. While the person who benefited from affirmative action may have his or her new job or place in a new school, they will now have to deal with the fallout that accompanies their new position. And that fallout includes resentment from peers who may have had more qualification for the position, as well as pity from others who believe that the person who now has a new position did not have the wherewithal to secure it with merit. How would you feel if you got hired for your dream job and your peers and or friends believed you only got the job because of your race or your ethnicity or your gender? In fact, would you even want to know? You see, affirmative action is a dual-edged sword. Sure, some people who might not have had access to Ivy League schools or success in certain career fields will now get that opportunity. But that opportunity injures the beneficiary as well as the excluded person and comes at the expense of foregoing the best man or woman for the position and the personal dignity of the now second-place winner. In an attempt to repackage the idea of affirmative action, the left has rebadged it as inclusion and equity. This is akin to the comparison of fair and equal. And I remember having this conversation with my son at a very early age. We were at Target shopping for school clothes with his sisters, and I had instructed him to go get a package of underwear, socks, and t-shirts. The girls got the same instruction, but instead of t-shirts, they got bras. When my son came back, he dropped his selections in the basket. I checked and saw that he selected the most expensive brands of underwear. I told him to return the underwear to the hangers and select other brands. He claimed, "That's not fair." He argued this because his sister's bras cost twice as much as regular underwear, so that's why he selected the more expensive brand. "Okay," I replied. "You believe that I should spend an equal amount on each of you for your underwear, and that would be fair." And he said, "Yeah." So I pulled out all of his selections and returned them. And then I selected the exact copy of the brands of underwear, socks, and bras that the girls got, but in his size. And I kind of had to approximate his size for the bras because he hadn't quite developed yet. Needless to say, he was a bit irate. After listening to him protest, I explained to him that in order for everything to be equal, they need to be the same. I asked him, "Are you and your sisters the same?" And he stated no. I asked him, "Are each of you getting the underwear you need?" And he said yes. He's a smart kid, so I didn't need to go any further with the lesson. He understood that fair is not always equal. My son happily took the less expensive underwear along with his previous selection of t-shirts and socks. The lesson here is that as a nation, we need to right wrongs by ensuring the rights of all Americans are protected irrespective of immutable characteristics or protected status. And while progressive leftists may be trying to right previous wrongs by harming the progeny of the people who did the wrongs through affirmative action, the truth is, it will not create the desired effect. This behavior is akin to the legal concept of ex post facto. Ex post facto refers to the changing of consequence after the fact, making something that was once legal, illegal, and then holding the people to account for that new standard. The United States Constitution expressly prohibits ex post facto law by both federal and state governments. By endorsing biases and then relabeling them as affirmative action, inclusion, or equity, the liberal progressive left is doing exactly what was done to some groups in the past. However, in this instance, these marginalized groups are now party to endorsing the biases their ancestors had to overcome. To overcome bias, you can only do that with education, effort, experience, and guile. And the last time I checked, nobody was able to give that to you. Well, that concludes this episode of Office of the Patriot. If you enjoyed what was presented, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share my channel on your social media. It is appreciated. And as always, have a great day and stay safe out there.